What's going on, beautiful people? It's your host, Drake, B. Drake, with Everythang Culture, the podcast for all cultures, the podcast with a purpose. As you may know, our mission statement comes in the words of Dr. Martin King Jr., which is he believes that men hate each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. They don't know each other because of segregation. And because of segregation, we have miscommunication. And this morning, this afternoon, this evening, we are here with B. Tinkerbell. What do you want to go about today, by the way?
We can go by B. It's
B.
easy.
You already know she's been on the show before with the makings of BY, and we'll talk about that later. But she's been a guest on the show. Make sure to go listen to the makings of her. And today we're going to be talking about the culture, the experience, the phenomenon is known as Freaknik.
Party people! Too much booty in the pants. There's too much booty in the pants. I'll be a freak until the day, until the dawn. Zoom, and a boom, boom. We can go to see freaky girls doing shows, doing. There it is, Hitman.
Freak Nick, baby.
So, and we're live on TikTok, by the way. We're live on TikTok, so this is a live recording. So if y'all see hear some extra voices and things come in, hey, we welcome in. If you hear us reading some of the comments and shouting some of our folks out, like Big Ken, what's happening with you? Christian, thank you for supporting. You know, this is part of it. But we really wanted to talk about this weeks ago. I'll put it on me. You know, I've been a little busy. You know,
it's your fault.
Life, and I'll take responsibility of it, life. But we're here now.
I'm grateful that we're here. I'm grateful that you even invited me to this platform because I love everything culture. So I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so excited to be a voice for my city, the city that I love, the city that I've given my life, my education, my community partnerships, my love to. I'm so excited to speak on behalf of my city. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Because you're connected. And that's why I thank you for being on here as well. Because you're a clear representation of your city. And since you came on the show, you put on for what you put on for.
Absolutely.
And we thank you for that. So if y'all want to learn more about B, because when I will tag everything in there, but if y'all want to learn more about B, y'all go listen.
Listen, Byanka today is the name on TikTok. I am Tinkerbell, but I'm Lovely Melody with 3 E's. On Twitter, I'm Lovely Melody with 2 E's. On Instagram, I'm Lovely Melody with 2 E's. So, you know, it just is what it is. But, you know, I am so glad I bleed this city. I love this city with everything in me. And it has impacted me in so many ways. As far as education, my friendships, my family, how I look at the world. Atlanta is just one of one. And so I'm so glad to be able to be a part of this conversation and talk about one of the monuments of this city, which is Freaknik. And so many people can say that they were a part of it and that they were able to experience it and that they were alive during the time of Freaknik. And I'm one of those people. I was alive during the time of Freaknik. It impacted my childhood, but also how I moved forward as a young adult, as a teenager, and as an adult. And we'll be able to see how that was able to come into fruition in this conversation. We'll be able to see how Freaknik shaped Atlanta. And I'm so glad to be a part of that. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, once again, you're welcome. And yes, you heard correctly, the state of Atlanta, because what I be hearing, I don't think, sometimes I hear Atlanta don't claim Georgia and vice versa.
Yeah,
I don't hear vice versa.
Because Atlanta is not Georgia. Because if you look at the makeup of Georgia, politically, demographically, as far as if you're looking at race, Atlanta is not Georgia. Atlanta might as well be an island on the coast of, I don't know, anywhere else.
It's kind of like how it's like Miami is not Florida. I hear that Seattle is not Washington, and I
Correct.
also hear that like
Correct.
you could say Austin is not Texas. You know, it all
Correct.
stands
You
apart.
could.
So I feel it. I feel it. I feel it. And you know, and we're gonna be talking about the source material. One of the main source material that we are using, coming from today, is the documentary that was released on Hulu. Was it in February, March? Around, they did a good job. They put it around the spring break time when spring break started, or right before spring break was started in most areas. So we're gonna be talking about who started Freaknik, when, you know, time period, where, and we're gonna be discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Ain't no ugly. There is an ugly. There is an ugly. But if we are looking at percentages, and I'm a data girl, okay, I work in data analytics, okay, that's what I do.
We like that.
If we're looking at the data, there's far more good than there is bad and ugly of Freaknik. And so I think the documentary did a great job of not missing the mark in that and highlighting the things that were great about Freaknik and what it brought to the city and to the culture, everything culture. And so I don't want that to be lost in this conversation.
Absolutely. We'll keep track with everything. We'll do our very best. But let's get to, so who started Freaknik?
So you and I both watched the same documentary, and as a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, the consolidation of Clark College and Atlanta University in 1988 of the two most pivotal colleges and universities in the Atlanta University Center, I love any opportunity to get a chance to raise a banner and raise a flag of the Atlanta University Center, which consists of Clark College, Atlanta University, which merged to be Clark Atlanta University, Spelman College, Morehouse College, Morris Brown, ITC, which is the Interdenominational University Center, Morris Brown College, Morehouse School of Medicine is the last one. So you have a consolidation of all of these colleges and universities, which is the largest consortium of Black educational institutions in the world to come together to make up the Atlanta University Center. We are a monument. We are a piece of heaven on earth for Black education. And as a recipient of that education via Clark Atlanta University, I think it is well within my rights to wave the flag and to let everybody know that there is no place like this on earth. You will not get a consortium of these many institutions in the world, ever. You won't. And so whether you are seeking medicine, whether you are seeking seminary or collegiate or master's or doctorate programs, it's all here in Atlanta, Georgia, baby. And so that's where it dwells and that's where it belongs. And that's why people have been for decades drawn here.
I think I don't think they did as good of a job that you just did now representing Atlanta and the AUC.
And they won't, because I paid my good coin, okay, to go in there. So whether or not my loans were relieved, thank you, Biden or whoever, or whether or not people are still paying, the Atlanta University Center is a monument in this country of all of those colleges and universities that seek to really edify Black people, their education, their longevity in their careers, and any and everything that they choose to achieve in this country. And there is no better place to do that than the Atlanta University Center.
Wow.
Come on, I met many Spelman and Clark. Okay, never mind. Not you met Swag. Now, you met them or you met them?
From the documentary, you know, expressed about some of the actual individuals at Freaknik. They expressed that it came from state clubs. They talked about where everyone came to the AUC and went to the different colleges in the area. And they couldn't go back home at times. Okay.
Yeah.
But with the state clubs, you know, they were like fraternities, but you represent where you're from. You know, you're not from Atlanta, or you could. I don't know if they had a Georgia one, but they had the. Let's say you had a Texas State Club, you had a Florida State Club, et cetera,
Absolutely.
et cetera. And they had the DC Metro State Club, and they, you know, from the documentary, they don't express everyone that kicked it off at first. You know, they wouldn't just started it out. And they push, you know, they say they doing everybody through parties. They do the best parties, allegedly, okay?
DC Metro in the early 1980s did, because if you look at the demographic of DC in the 1980s, it was Chocolate City. That's where they get the term from, right?
Yes.
So we're looking at DC, the DMV, we're looking at Baltimore, we're looking at Virginia, we're looking at Maryland, we're looking at DC, and we're saying there's all of these Black people or people of African descent that are moving to this demographic, and they're saying, yeah, we populate this, and then we're sending our children to the AUC to lead and to be forces within the AUC, and they begin to build their own club, whether it's the DC Metro, whether it's the Atlanta Club, whether it's the Jersey Club, LA Club, whatever. DC Metro was leading at that time, and it makes sense because DC was Chocolate City. So we have all of these people coming into the city, and they're saying, we want to build something that brings people together, right? We want to build something that allows people to come together and party and network, but also feel at home in a time where people couldn't afford plane tickets to go home. People couldn't afford train tickets to go home or the car. So they're absolutely coming to Atlanta to build this family, right?
And you're touching on so much of it already. I don't want to get too far ahead because, you know, Freaknik started in 1983, if I'm not mistaken. The very initial, well, you know, we don't use the term picnic anymore, but, you know, the cookout,
we do.
You know,
we do.
You know, we shouldn't. Let me say that.
Is there another term? If you come up with another term, I'll use it. But picnic is the only term I know.
Gathering.
But what if they're not cooking, friend?
Then we're gathering. Okay. The spot, you know, the hangout. I can keep going on. I can expand my vocabulary a little bit more for you, but the point of it is, this was something for college students to celebrate with each other and to gather with one another during the spring break, you know, period. So it grew quite a bit. You know, the main purpose was for us to come together and celebrate. Small
college students.
College students.
Let's make that clear. There were college students coming together within the AUC only. If you were talking about 1983 through 1989, there were college students within the AUC coming together to do this.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Spot on. So the thing was, once again, but it was all about gathering, come together, and it was small. Think of you, me, and maybe like 5 other of our peers put something together, and it started to pop. Okay. Yeah. It was supposed to be a cookout. Once again, we just bring some, you know, we're cooking some hot dogs, some burgers, you know, and things of that nature, maybe some links, you know. We may bring some ribs out, trying to be fancy and things from time to time. We're gathering money, and we're just here for the folks that, and it's not everybody, it's the folks who can't make it, but it started to gradually climb and, you know, blow up more and more and more into where it became something as a, let's say, you know, I would say that's the good. The good is the unity. You know, the good is the gathering for together, the college students, and, you know, no matter what, make it work. And when I say the bad, it grew to the point.
How are we advancing to the bad so quickly?
Okay,
because I really want to dwell on the good. I really want to dwell on the fact that between 1983 and between 1989, that college students, HBCU students specifically, came throughout the nation, whether they were coming from Howard University, Hampton University, Lincoln University. They were coming from all of these colleges and universities coming to the hub of Atlanta because they heard by word of mouth that this is a place where we can find solitude, where we can commune with one another, and there will be a weekend of just us being college students. I think that
Yeah.
that's important to note, that it was led and attended by college students between 1983 and 1989 specifically, for them to have a good time.
Correct.
And of course we can get into down the line what occurred, but I want to lay the foundation that this was for us.
Yeah. And I want to clarify. When I say the good, I'm talking about the timelines. When people consider everything was, and when I say the bad, I don't mean to be like a negative. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when it got a little raunchy. Because we start getting into the bad was, we can look at as good as well. Because
Yeah.
when it was just the college students and it was just
Mm-hmm.
about the unity and celebration and us coming together, once again, the unity coming together, when it was just that, that was the all positive. You know, they had some fun. They probably do a little doing the bump and things of that nature. Okay. And
The
you know,
bump, okay, the butt
the
was not
name come
okay,
from
but
the
go
freak.
ahead.
When did the bump come out?
The
Didn't the
butt,
bump come out? The
you
the,
talking about the bump, and it's the butt, baby. It's
I'm,
the
I'm
butt.
trying to keep I'm trying to keep it super PG. Let's say that. But doing the butt, okay, doing the butt, okay. DC
The
Metro
butt
once
is still
again,
PG. You're not saying
doing the
something
butt,
else that you could.
the cheeks. But going into that, it was one of those things where it started out small, then it started to grow. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
people start to grow, you know, you're gonna see folks that may not have been attending college. Okay, you're gonna have some more community involvement. Let's just say that, and it grew
You're fast
from.
forwarding, but go
Oh,
ahead.
I'm going. I'm how fast forward. Like I slow
You're
it down
you're
a little bit.
jumping. You're
Cause
jumping.
so when did it become where people outside of college started to come?
So I would say, based on what I know and based on my
Mm-hmm.
research, 1992 is when people
Mm-hmm.
started coming that were outside of the sphere of the collegiate realm, right?
Yeah.
So 1989 in Atlanta specifically is when um, Atlanta police and the AUC started noticing that there was more than just college students coming.
Mm-hmm.
1992 was the earliest that they began noticing that. And so nobody is mad at that, right? Because the more people that come into the city, the more dollars come into the city. So
Yeah.
nobody was mad about that. And I think it's important to note that if there are people coming to the city, that means that this is something that is notable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a few college kids in 1983, right, created in their 19, 20, 21, maybe created something that was important enough and notable enough for people to want to say, hey, I want to be a part of this. There are people that look like me coming together in a city that reflects who I am and that is welcoming to me. I want to be a part of that. So
Because you got.
1992 is probably the earliest. 89 between 89 and 92 is the most notable. Yeah.
I would agree to that because it started to be picked up by black filmmakers and artists. So it was discussed in school days. It was discussed in a different world. And
Mhm.
when it started making to the black media or any media, people are gonna
Mhm.
come. You know, people
Yeah.
are gonna start showing up.
Exactly.
And,
School Days in 88 and A Different World in 89. Like
mm-hmm.
that is telling the story of HBCUs, is telling the stories of what that looks like to be a part of a culture
Yeah.
that is accepting of you, is accepting of your education, and accepting of whatever you are bringing to the table. So that's important to note.
Yeah. And you pointed up with just specifically HBCUs again. So, you know, me being from Texas, you know, I went to HBCU in my high school years. I went to Jarvis, but I already knew the HBCUs and the AUC was just different. I had a
Different,
cousin that
baby.
went and graduated from Clark. but majority of my brothers went to Prairie View down here. Cousins graduated from Prairie View, but I knew that area in Atlanta was different. It was
Very.
strong, and as I've grown as an adult, I came in touch with a lot of folks from the DMV, especially from the Prince George's area, and I recognize the way they speak and the way they hold themselves. No matter how eclectic they may be, they have a strong sense of unity and culture of Black excellence and pride. So having these two things come together, I think it was meant to be something excellent, something strong and successful. So you made a comment earlier. And I was like, when we were texting earlier, you made a comment because I made a comment stating that a lot of artists wouldn't be where they're at if it wasn't for Freaknik.
And they would not. Rico Wade just passed this weekend, and we want to. You want to talk about who he led? We can have a conversation.
But the thing was, at first you was like, yeah, they would be there no matter what. It wasn't for Freaknik, and I was like, I'm gonna wait till we talk about it on the show because
they still would. They still would.
It would have. I don't think they would have reached it to the point. Freaknik catapulted numerous people, not even from Atlanta.
I don't know.
I don't think even Luke would be as big as he is if it wasn't for Freaknik.
I don't know. I don't know.
Because not only, it's not just my opinion, but this is something that was also stated in the documentary from JD himself, from Luke himself, that the thing is they had talent. You feel me? But when you brought, we're saying right now, Freaknik brought people in all across the nation. People was driving, flying, things so they're getting more exposure. We did not have the internet, we didn't have it.
To be clear, they were bringing college students in throughout the nation.
Initially.
Let's be clear, because that is important to note, because there is a shift between 1995 and 1997 where it became not only college students, but people.
See, now you going too far ahead. You going too far ahead.
You started it.
No, because right now we in the bad. The bad is when it started to turn up. The bad when you have the LaFace records, when you have So Def, when you have the Rim Club, when you have the slabs coming out, you have when the culture started to grow, when people are not only able to see Atlanta from what it is, but they're starting to grow their careers, their beliefs. And I remember seeing as a young man, as child, seeing little videos and things, and I'm like, oh,
why
man,
is that able to happen? I want us to reflect on this city, because it is so easy to talk about Freaknik and how Freaknik came to be and all of that stuff. But nothing was happening in this city like it was happening in Atlanta. In 1930s, Atlanta was the pioneer in governmental housing, right? We were the first governmental housing project. When we talk about Techwood Homes, if y'all are watching BMF, y'all know what happened with Techwood Homes in the 1990s. So we see that, right? Techwood Homes was the first governmental housing project in the United States, period. So you have 14,000 units of governmental housing in Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
Between 1930 and the 1980s, right? You have the first Black mayor in 1974. You have people moving here because of music in the early 1980s, right? Yeah. And not even getting into how affordable, if you didn't live in the projects, how affordable housing was in the 1980s and 1970s. So let's get into that.
Swag, we here. Look, y'all got to put in on for your city. I ain't gonna ever stop y'all putting on for y'all city.
I'm here, baby. I'm not coming off of anything, because I'm here for the city. And so let's talk about what Atlanta was doing. Atlanta was leading in housing Atlanta was leading in politics. Atlanta was leading in religion. Ebenezer Baptist Church, if you think about Martin Luther King and how many people were drawn to the idea that a political and religious leader was leading the country out of this city. So let's not brush over that, and how many people were coming here simply because of that, and how in education the Atlanta University Center was leading. So if you add all of that, there is no reason why Black people, people of color, would not be drawn to this city outside of Freaknik, be drawn to this city simply because of those things.
True. So we're talking about Freaknik right now.
we are, but we have to get to why Freaknik even began to be.
Absolutely,
and why
absolutely.
It even became a monument in the city. And why this city was chosen for Freaknik and not any other city.
And that's what I was going to touch on too, because when we talk about how Freaknik, the impact that it had on the community and on the culture in total of here as far as Black Americans, and I would say almost internationally, if not worldwide, because it not only implemented, it influenced music, it influenced fashion, it influenced just lifestyles in total, I would say that. But you can say that from Atlanta, but once again, that's where it took place. So while you're discussing right now, do we, you, myself, and everybody else that's in the chat, do you believe that Freaknik could have took place in a different city? There we go.
Freaknik could have never taken place in another city. You want to know why? Because no other city had the Atlanta University Center. This was a college-led, college-created, and college-driven endeavor.
We're in an era that, it's influencing music, hair, fashion. They talk about things we influence from the Daisy Dukes to the Cutters. I'm just gonna say Cutters right now. Not like 90s period. I think for our culture, and I shout out to my people's Oreen, with the hoochie historian. I would say that it's so much came the Bonner Brothers show. All these
period. My first
sew-in
was at Bronner Brothers in the West End. Let's get into it.
I say all this but this event, this spring break, this the show, what they try to say was a concert. All these things we can say what it was, but this week of Black people come together as a collective to collect together in the city that already supported us and highlighted us.
Absolutely.
It was able to bring so much more to the culture that we still see today. And I think once again that's what the bad, but it brought a lot of music into it. I love the music. We can say how many artists that would not be here, like Too Short, UGK.
Too Short, and we talk about Atlanta, baby. What's going on?
Too Short from the West Coast, but he claims Atlanta.
I understand that, but when we have Outkast and we have TLC and we have Brad,
you focus. See, that's the thing. You just focus. You can see that's the thing. You focus Atlanta.
I am.
Freaknik, listen, but we have to. But you minimizing that Freaknik.
Thank you, Swag.
Brought a lot more people, and that's what we know he's not. I'm telling y'all, that's what I'm trying to
reach of Atlanta.
But once again, but that's the point. I'm talking about this event that came in that brought people in to actually continue to support the city there too. That's what I'm talking about too. Because I'm from, once again, like we say, I'm from Texas. All right. We had the Kappa. The Kappa came from event from Freaknik, okay? Because we have a large Black population too. We ain't got nothing as far as everybody's so centered and centralized and organized maybe as Atlanta or, Prince George's County, Marion, things of that nature. But we have it here, and a lot of people from Atlanta, a lot of people from that's going to Maryland,
right, Swag.
Compton, and X came from Texas as well. But the thing is, we got to say, we would not have a lot of people, a lot of music, a lot of it was a lot of influence that came from that event that was able for us to share, and it came from Atlanta. That was a part of it as well, and just what that created is who we are today. Still, and that's why they're still trying to create it.
Yeah.
That flow, that feeling, that edginess, that it was once again the fun, but living with a little bit of, I don't want to say debauchery, but it was
It was
different.
debauchery, friend. It's okay.
I didn't want to say it though. That's what I said.
But so another thing that I want to pull up is, right, so when we look at movements, right,
Mm-hmm.
culturally in America, right, so we
Yeah.
look at because I was a psychology and religion major, right, I look
Mm-hmm.
at the Black liberation theology movement that happened in the 1960s. I think of the Black liberation movement that happened in the 1960s, the feminist movement and the womanist movement. These are the children of those people, right? And so when we think about how Atlanta influences the world, it absolutely does, Jada. When we think about how liberation moves and how we continue to move the needle with each generation, right? These are the children of the people that were influenced by those movements, right? And so a lot of times, and I feel like I'm skipping ahead in your timeline. I'm so sorry.
No, we're right
But
on track.
when we think about the women and their liberation, their sexual liberation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we think about the music and the liberation, the sexual liberation of the music, but also the freedom in the music that was being played in the 1990s, these are the byproducts of the children that were moving the needle in the 1960s and 1970s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it is fair to say that this is just a byproduct of the needle that we wanted to push in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It is unfortunate, right, that as a result of college students coming together and being like-minded and having an idea of how things should flow, that there are people from different communities that may not be college students that were
Yeah.
in their 30s and 40s that were
Yeah.
coming around and adding to some of the ruckus of
Mm-hmm.
Freaknik and how the sexualization was um,
We're
moved,
transitioning into the ugly now, y'all. Go ahead.
and how the sexualization was moved into an area that we don't like to ponder on, and that we don't like to reflect on, and that we don't like to speak about. But it was a part of the culture, right? We
Yeah.
don't like to speak about that, but as big as Freaknik was, and as big
Yeah.
as Freaknik became by 1995, 1996, the culture became a part of what was collegiate, right? And so you get people in the communities, whether they're from Nebraska, if they're from Miami, if they're from Detroit, if they're from Atlanta, they were a part of this Atlanta Freaknik that was meant to be a collegiate experience.
Event. Yeah.
And so we're getting the push of the sexual needle in that area. Whereas women may have wanted to say, I own my body, I own my sexuality, and I'm here to stay. There were some people that may have been influenced by an older needle
Mm-hmm.
that decided to say, hey, I want to see how far you can go. And it really violated some of the women and some of the men that were there, because
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I don't think that we talk about, and I was talking about it, one of my friends has a doctorate in human sexuality and religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about that earlier this week, and we were talking about how the queer lens is not reflected at all when we talk about Freaknik, and
Oh,
what was happening with the queer lens in that,
so
right?
that so not only that discussion right there, because I got my notes. You feel me? You ain't got all the key
Mm-hmm.
points, and sometimes I was talking about the strip club circuit.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How that push blue.
Mm-hmm.
I think people start looking at strip clubs a whole different level, not only for the just watching women, but it was more of a networking spot.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
talking about the part of camera and video. Okay, talking about, like, listen, shout out to the VHSs, and if
My
you know,
VHS.
we had the good, the bad, which, the bad is still good and still profitable and still, seeing what we is. But the ugly is when we had these people that the
Sexually
misogyny war,
assaulted.
the misogyny, the sexual assaults, the crime, the discrimination that we're experiencing, because sooner or later it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's inevitable. That's when you were speaking a moment ago. In my head, it's inevitable that it's going to happen. I used to throw parties back in high school. Okay, every once a month, every other month, things of that nature. We're throwing a party. We knew it was inevitable before a fight would break out. We knew it was inevitable because certain times, certain people is going to come and it's going to start some ruckus and problems. I learned that when I was 16 and 17. So me being at the age, if I had something like an event like Freaknik and it's been successful for a certain amount of time, sooner or later, with me and my peers, we call weirdos, they go show up. They're going to show up, unfortunately. And they're going to disrupt the fun. They're going to disrupt the good. They're not only going to disrupt the good, they're going to disrupt the bad too. They're going to put it to the point that now I got to grab the microphone. Oh, man, we got to shut this thing down.
But I'm going to ask you, do you think that happens across events?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's not only with us. Because in the documentary, they talked about spring break, Daytona Beach. You don't hear nobody talk about
Miami
Daytona Beach anymore. Miami, all that with the same
Panama
thing that were
City.
the same thing that was happening at Freaknik. The same thing was happening there. And I want to be clear about that. The same thing that was happening at Freaknik, the same thing was happening there.
Period.
And they talk about it. And this is Everythang culture. If I bring some white people or some people, Latin people, it's in every culture.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
But it has to stop too.
I agree.
And that's the point. It has to come to the point where it's like, damn. The thing that stands out, the thing that is the problematic part is the discrimination. That's what other people don't have to experience. It's the discrimination. The police brutality, the treatment of others, the turn of that is the thing that I'm like, damn.
But also, again, Atlanta connoisseur here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So,
the floor is yours.
I am from Atlanta, Georgia, to be clear. Atlanta began the Red Dog Task Force in the late 1980s, right? And so the Red Dog Task Force was code for run every drug dealer out of Georgia. That's what Red Dog stand for. And yes, drugs don't need to be in our city. Drugs don't need to be in our city. Drugs don't need to be a point of
take a bite out of crime.
Disillusion of our people, right? We understand that, right? Red Dog and the disillusion of the housing projects kind of went hand in hand to me, right? As a person who lived in projects when I was living in Atlanta in 1992 with my family, and we lived in housing projects. And we were told in 1993 that our housing projects were going to be dissolved. And we were then given vouchers to live to Clayco, which is the city. That's where I rep. I rep that I'm from Clayco because that's where I grew up. Clayco is short for Clayton County. Right?
I know. I ain't that square on the.
But the people
culture.
may not know, baby. The people may not know.
You're right. You're right. Thank you for explaining. I appreciate you for explaining. Thank you.
I was trying to let the people know because this is live and you are going to chop and screw this, okay? So
thank you for including that Houston culture right there. Go ahead. Go ahead. Thank you. You got us blushing over here in the H. Okay.
I'm from Clayco, right? Riverdale, Jonesboro, Monroe, all of the cities. I went to 13 different schools before I graduated high school because of unstable childhood, right? So I get it, right? And so all of those people that were eventually moved out of the projects by 1998 were given vouchers to move to these different cities in Clayco, in Henry County and wherever so that they could live, because they didn't want them in the city. Because guess what? In 1996, the Olympics was king, and you're following the money. So if you can get the people out of the city and get them vouchers to move into a school system that had no accreditation, because that's where I was. Clayco had no accreditation, baby. None. No accreditation.
Hold on, let me jump in for a quick 2 seconds. When I saw that part, I remember that. I remember this. I remember this as a kid. Well, I was 10 years old when this happened. I was going through some things in life right there. Age 10 was an experience for me. But let me say this: that ain't nothing changed.
Period.
Let me tell you, if any bigger. Listen, when I was in Seattle. When I've been in Houston when they had the Super Bowl and the All Star game. I was in Seattle when they had the All Star MLB game. When I tell you, when a big event is coming to the city, they clearing everybody. Everybody. You bet. Hey, they like, hey, Seattle, one of the most liberal cities. It's a strong, I think it's top 3, at least top 4 for low income or underhoused individuals. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
When the MLB game, All-Star game, they cleared we went downtown. I'm
everybody.
Like, where are all the
everybody? And so didn't care.
Because they about that. Once again, something I need to put that on tonight, y'all. I'm sipping. We're not sponsored, but we're sipping our rum, and it's hidden. It's hidden right now. But when I tell you, I keep saying I need to go ahead and put my merchandise together. When it's into my soul that I realize that people don't care about people. Mm-hmm. People care about the use of people.
People care about money.
That's the point. But you use people to get money.
The
to money. Get money. Listen. Because money can come and go. You can say gold, silver. It's power and control. Okay. And that's the end goal. But, I ain't get too deep with people right now because we make it semi-light. But this is deep because, I'm going to say this. How y'all feel about Freaknik and I feel about Atlanta, that's how I feel about Juneteenth. Uh-huh. But we ain't talking about Juneteenth right now. We do the Juneteenth episode later. But when I tell y'all the biggest thing that I love this right here. I love when people can come together and celebrate their culture. Even if, like y'all talking about the roads and the streets and the names and the experiences that I may not have. That is culture. But that's that is culture. That is culture right there. So, but when we have these type of conversations right here, I appreciate you for this one. I already said thank you for coming on, but thank you for coming on again because you're sharing a perspective that I can't share. Yeah. Like my swag, Jada go be here. Jada may not, but Jada.
The culture too real, Jada. I know that's right.
Yeah, but this is what brings people together. This is everything culture. So, and I'm glad that you're saying like with Freaknik was part of the culture, but it brings that Atlanta. Like if Freaknik was held in Houston, I definitely would be like, y'all don't know shit. Y'all don't know shit about Freaknik.
I have another real A-towner here, just to be clear.
So I want to go back to something else that you were speaking about the queerness. I did not want to dismiss that at all.
Okay.
But I'm going to say this, and we're going to come back to that. Do you think Atlanta can host Freaknik now?
So there is a Freaknik. You and I have talked about it. I did my research.
The Freaknik Festival.
Okay. Yeah. And it's happening this weekend. Oh. It's actually happening this weekend in Atlanta.
Shut up.
Do you think any of my friends, Quinye, are you going to Freaknik this weekend? Exactly. She said, I was literally in here thinking, when does that come out? Because don't nobody give a fuck about that shit. So let's be clear. Nobody in Atlanta is going to this revamped Freaknik because it is not real.
Say that, D.
No. Jada said, baby, I'm at home this weekend. Real talk.
Jada got a child. Wait, Jada, you have a child. Good.
Sleepnik, Quinye said.
And we in that.
Because
We
who the fuck is
listen,
going
listen.
to that?
We in our 30s. Jada in her 20s, but
It's
Jada
not
got
because we in our
responsibility.
30s. If my 22-year-old and 24-year-old sister decided to go outside this weekend, they would not be at Freaknik.
Hold on, Jada. Hey, I gotta do you like that, baby. I gotta do. No, I'm talking about Jaya, not Jada. Jaya. Jada has. You have a child too, Jada. Jaya has a child.
It doesn't matter if Jada has a child or not, because that has no bearing on whether or not she finds her time valuable enough to go to that shit. Nobody's going to that shit.
I want to let y'all know my experience and my background is in child protection. No. So peep game. Not only that I say,
Jaya,
so
if you
we have
want
a
to go to Freaknik, you don't want to go to this weekend. And I'm
yeah, she the one that said she ain't going. She the one that said she ain't going. She ain't worried about it. None of it.
Jaya, it's a big no. That's not happening.
So for instance, Freaknik, and once again, when we talk about culture, a lot of us think about just ethnicity. We think about race, which once again, race is not real, but racism is. But the thing is, when we talk about these things here, and man, when I say Tinkerbell be here, she did an excellent job. Y'all go listen to the makings of Byanka once again and soak that in. And I shared it on the Black History for Black History Month this year. Culture is bigger. Culture is shared experiences. Okay, so that's why when I talk about everything culture, everything is culture.
Now.
All right. So, for instance, Freaknik was a culture of that generation. To me, what when we're going towards the closing, Freaknik can't be done again. You can do something else, but you can't do Freaknik again. Freaknik was a time and it was a place and space in this world.
Absolutely.
Okay? And we just have to take it in that, like, hey, if you was there, you was there.
It's like the Civil War.
Hey, if that's what you want to compare it to,
it's like the Beyonce tour.
Cool, that's better.
It's like
I like
Woodstock. You can't replicate this shit.
Exactly,
so it's not happening again.
Because just like it's a lot of people of the caucus culture that want to remake Woodstock.
It's not happening at Lakewood, Sage. Swag. It's not happening. That would never happen again. It's not happening at Lakewood. And I don't care how many people get the trademarks to the name, it will never be Freaknik.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. It'll never happen again.
So I don't want to be. I'm from Texas. South Seal for Lil, baby.
Oh, landmark. Okay.
So Houston, Texas tried to replicate Freaknik. Like after Freaknik ended, I think. So we had something called the Kappa Beach Party to be exact. And it was held by the Kappas. I don't know if it was all the Kappas collectively in Texas or whatever the case may be, but it was the same. It was spring break. And once again, I don't know if anybody in here from Texas, but let me tell you, when the mixtape gang was out, when Swisher House, Slim Thug, Chameleonaire, Paul Wall,
I'm weak.
The best music. I'm talking about when we play after the best mixtapes in Texas was after the Kappa from Swisher House. These are things that created Houston culture, but when I hear about Freaknik and I think about the Kappa, it came from Freaknik. Now I don't know where the slabs and the swangers. I think that was a mutual thing that Black people shared that from Texas, because all these things we do for Juneteenth. Shout out Juneteenth, the best motherfucking.
Shout out to Juneteenth. I took the holiday off and the consecutive 2 days afterwards.
So what have we learned from the
Red Dog and Wayne Williams? Go.
See, look, y'all talk about a culture I don't understand. But
Wayne
my question
Williams?
now, what do you want to share for the last moment speaking about Freaknik, and what have we learned, and what do we want to do different now?
So this is my moment to talk about till this day, Jada. I love having Atlanta people on the line. That makes my heart warm. Okay, so what do I want to share about Freaknik in Atlanta? Is that what I have?
What do you want people to take from this? Not only from Freaknik, from Atlanta, from the experiences from this,
Yeah.
and what did you take from it?
Atlanta is a force. Atlanta is a force for African American people in this country to come and to be leaders, to be innovators, to be entrepreneurs, to be political leaders, to be religious leaders, and to make their dreams come true. I think that Freaknik was a propeller for that. And I think
Mm,
Freaknik allowed a lot of people to see into the lens of Atlanta and to see what was possible. And I think that between 1976 and 1998, we got a glimpse of the harsh truths of Atlanta, right?
mm,
Which would exist anywhere in the country, where there is crime, where there is violation, and where there is transgression. But I think if we were to look through 1983 and we were to look through 1996, we would see the love and the hope and the joy, the black joy that is Atlanta, and why so many people year after year continue to move to this city to make their dreams come true. Now, am I a fan of people moving here to make their traffic dreams come true? No, because nobody wants to sit in that shit. But am I a person that really advocates for the fact that Atlanta is where you can come and you become a majority and you can see people that are living the life that you want to live and that inspires you? Yes, Atlanta is absolutely one of those cities. And so I am proud to be a product of this city. I am proud to be a person that is inspired by this city. And I'm a proud person that continues to be grown by this city and learn from this city. Um, Atlanta is like no other place on earth, and you can say any other city you want to say. You can say DC, you can say Nigeria, you can say whatever. There is no place on earth like Atlanta, Georgia. And I will speak that to the wheels fall off. This is my city, the city that I love, the city that has made me, the city that has made me resilient, hopeful, and entrepreneurial. And I will never give up on this city. And I'm so glad of the efforts of the people that thought to make a small town picnic into a big deal that
mm,
propelled this city into the greatness that it is. So
mm,
forever, I love Atlanta. R.I.P. Rico Wade, the legend. Okay.
mm.
And we will see what is next for Atlanta.
We love it. We love it. We love it. And I'm just gonna add in once again, thank you so much for being here. So, and not only thank you, B, thank you, Swag, thank you, Jada, thank you, Jaya, for being a part of this conversation. Y'all made me feel like I need to do a whole Atlanta episode.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Invite them on.
and,
Invite
and
them
I will
on,
invite. I
please.
want to have some officials on here too. I want to have all around. Uh, so I'm gonna say this, it's something I learned from the experience and the conversations we have here, as well as the documentary. Freaknik would never happen again. It can't be replicated. Okay,
Can't
that's happening,
ever.
but can it happen again as far as something else?
It
Can
continues.
we
It's happening this
recreate something?
weekend. I won't report back.
Yeah,
Somebody might look for it on TikTok because I'm not reporting back, but it's happening this weekend. So you look
yeah.
for that somewhere.
Exactly. But I want to say thank y'all so much for being here. I appreciate y'all. And yes, this has been another Everything Culture production. Y'all make sure to check out B. And we'll share y'all the content and information later. But thank y'all